We have been diving deep into the data for months now here in the off season, but the one thing we haven't given you guys yet is a mock draft. So today, let's go ahead and do it. You want to see all the information that we've been giving you applied in real time by ourselves? Now it's time to pop, lock, and mock it. Headliner Nation, the award for cringiest intro in a fantasy football video this year goes to yours truly. Thank you, hold the applause. But Headliner Nation, seriously, today I want to do a mock draft video for you because you guys have been asking for it in the comment section, wanting to see how we take all the information we've been giving to you and actually utilize it in real time. And if the information that we've been giving you can actually be taken to your draft and executed correctly. And as we hop into the mock draft, make sure you hit that subscribe button for me if you're new here. We're on the road to 250,000 subscribers, and we would love to hit that this season, and you could be a huge part of helping us hit that goal. And for context purposes, I want to make sure that I share with you the roster build for this mock draft. It's a 12-team league. We ended up taking the 10th draft spot. It is a half PPR format, starting 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex spots. A rather large starting lineup, but it would allow us to get a little bit crazy and have some fun with this mock draft. Now, one area that you may not love, it is a 1 QB league, because a majority of people have been asking about 1 quarterback leagues. If you want a super flex mock draft, let us know. Maybe we can get another one done here in the next week or so to give you a little bit better look that if you're in a super flex league, how that will turn out for you. But for now, we're going to go ahead and kick off the mock draft. There's no question about a lot of the guys going at the very beginning of the first round. It is what it is. Nothing really there to talk about. Those guys are hammer draft picks throughout the majority of the first 5 picks. A little interesting that Justin Jefferson goes before Bijan and Gibbs. I doubt that will happen too often, but it is what it is. At the end of the first round, I take Bucky Irving because I've been very vocal about getting your guys this season. And at the end of the first, if Derrick Henry and the rest of the top running backs are off the board, I'm willing to go with Bucky Irving. He's my RB5 right now. And even though everybody thinks that Christian McCaffrey should be ranked ahead of them, I think Bucky Irving, while a lot of people feel like he'll be good this season, I think he's going to showcase how high his upside could go. Drake London is at wide receiver 5 for me right now. I absolutely love the upside. And at the end of the first round, if there's 2 guys that I believe have top 5 value at their position, you best bet that I'm going to hit the draft button as hard and as quickly as I possibly can. This is a great balanced way to start any draft. Now we're heading to the end of the 3rd round, and I go with Kenneth Walker. Now, for Kenneth Walker, he is a guy that a lot of people are talking about right now. And they're all saying the same thing. They're worried about his injury history. And I absolutely get it. And you might think I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because, I really don't like Christian McCaffrey because of his injury history, but I'm drafting Kenneth Walker. But I'm getting Kenneth Walker at the end of the 3rd round with a 4th round ADP. Christian McCaffrey, he goes in the 2nd round here, but a majority of the time you're going to be taking him in the 1st round. That becomes a little bit of an issue that I don't love. With Kenneth Walker, we'll refer back to him in a few minutes, but Clint Kubiak and the Seahawks are going to run the football a ton this season. DK Metcalf is my wide receiver too. I think he's a great pairing with Drake London because of how good his floor could be based on the fact that he is going to get a crap load of targets for Pittsburgh this year, regardless of how quarterback play is or anything like that. Calvin Ridley after DK Metcalf, tons of upside there that I absolutely love as a wide receiver 3. The wide receiver 1 in Tennessee, Cam Ward, looks really good right now. Calvin Ridley, he might be a little bit up and down, but he's still going to have a lot of that big playability that is a wide receiver 3 I'm not nearly as worried about. Tony Pollard going at 6.3. Now, you could have gone Travion Henderson here if you wanted a little bit more upside. I went with Tony Pollard. I wanted to be a little bit more safe because I already had Kenneth Walker. Tony Pollard for me is a guy that really is trending in the right direction, especially considering the fact Tyjae Spears is now injured. Evan Ingram for me is going at the end of round 7. Absolutely love him as a tight end. Gonna lock him in with that type of volume and big play upside that he could have in Denver this year, especially if they run the football really, really well. which they should. I'm going with Matthew Golden here in the 8th round. Matthew Golden for me is a guy that should be the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay. The fact that Jayden Reed is still going ahead of him in ADP right now really catches me off guard quite a bit. I'll take Matthew Golden as my wide receiver 4, and in really good matchups, I could use him as a second flex. Now I take Zach Charbonnet in the 9th round. You really have to back up Kenneth Walker. It is absolutely essential for you to do that if you're drafting Kenneth Walker. Make sure you have him on your roster. The next pick I make is J.K. Dobbins. Now I did this mock draft kind of at the same time this past weekend when we were seeing the difference between J.K. and R.J. Harvey. R.J. Harvey definitely looked the part at times. J.K. Dobbins, he's number 1 on the depth chart, but he wasn't used as much in the preseason. So it'll be interesting to see how all of that plays out over the next couple of weeks to see if J.K. Dobbins actually is the starter and they work R.J. Harvey along. My hope is that maybe I can play J.K. Dobbins for the first couple of weeks and then trade him to the R.J. Harvey owner if need be. Dak Prescott in round 11 is a huge value for me. Absolutely love Dak Prescott, and every season that he's played at least 16 games, he has been a QB1. I go ahead and take Trey Benson. I don't have James Conner on deck. He's not on my roster, but Trey Benson to me is one of those handcuffs in the later rounds that if the James Conner owner has not drafted him as of yet, and you're at a point where you don't love all of the options, then let's go ahead and lock in Trey Benson, and maybe we can trade him to the James Conner owner later, or if Conner can't stay healthy, Trey Benson will be a guy that we can utilize in our roster on a consistent basis. Now here I went back and forth between Cedric Tillman and Demario Douglas. Based on a lot of the upside potential I already have on the roster, I decided to go with Demario Douglas instead, who in a half PPR league will not have a ton of upside, and his floor will be okay, but he should still see a decent amount of targets to be a guy that could fill in for any injuries. Maybe in a really good matchup, he could be your second flex, but he'll be a guy that majority of the time will just be depth for you. Mason Taylor in the 14th. I love Mason Taylor. I end up taking a second tight end here, which I don't do a ton of, but I really like Mason Taylor. I think he could end up being a top 15 option at the position. He's a little bit banged up, should end up being okay though. Keep an eye on him as a guy that you might pick up on the waivers at some point if he's not drafted. And then a lot of the times you hear us talk about defense and kickers at the end of the round. For defense and kickers here at the end of the draft, I go with the Texans as my defense. And then for the kicker position, I mean, really, you're just looking for guys that are on really good offenses where they're going to be kicking a lot of extra points, where they're going to have a shot at a lot of field goals. Do they kick indoors? A lot of different ways you can go there. So I decided to go with Evan McPherson. Let's go ahead and run a guy out there that we know is on an offense that's going to play very well. I was thinking about taking another player there. Really, when it comes to kickers and defense, though, at the end of the draft for you, I just did a video where I talked about, like, you don't really need to worry about that. But I wanted to showcase it for you because this is a mock draft. If I'm drafting this far out where I'm still a few weeks away from the beginning of the NFL season, I won't take a defense and I won't take a kicker. I'll take extra players that I could keep on my roster that potentially we could end up doing some really good things with. So I go ahead and go with a couple of guys here anyway, and then we end the draft. But let's go ahead and take a look at my overall team and what we think about that. You always have to stay fluid in your fantasy football drafts, but it's very good to have a game plan going in that you can at least try to follow. And the best way to set your game plan is by studying up with our 2025 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. And I want to give away one for free today in this video. First, hit the like button because this video needs 1,500 likes. As soon as we hit that mark, I will pick somebody from the comment section down below to get a draft guide for absolutely free. Now, all you need to do in the comments is leave me a grade. It doesn't have to be A, B, C, D. It doesn't have to be 1 through 10. It can be whatever type of funny grading system you want to use. The more clever it is, the better chance you have of catching my eye and winning the draft guide. Also provide 1 to 2 sentences on what you think about my team and why you give it the grade that you do. 1,500 likes, I'll pick someone to win the draft guide. But if you want to get yours now so you can start studying, then head to tfhdraftguide.com. Order yours today at the link in the description below. And if you want to get yours now, but you end up winning later on, we'll just refund you the price. So you might as well go ahead and get it because it's the best bang for your buck content that you'll get in the fantasy football industry today. Tons of content, including the perfect draft, which helps you draft from any spot of your fantasy league, and exclusive tools like my dynamic running back rating that you can't find anywhere else. All right, let's take an in-depth look at the entire roster as a whole, and we can go back and look at some other things too if we need to throughout the rest of this video. It's going to be a little bit of a quicker video, but that's okay. Sometimes you want to sit down, watch a little football, and then be done with it for the day. But my team build right now, I absolutely love. And I know there's going to be people in the comments that tell me that they don't like this team. And there's going to be some people in the comments that tell me how much they like this team. It's my team. I feel good about it. I like a lot of these players this season. And what I'm currently looking at right now, Bucky Irving and Kenneth Walker are my RB1 and RB2. I have to start at least 2 every single week. I'm going to go with these guys. If Kenneth Walker gets hurt or misses time, then it's Zach Charbonnet. My first flex spot ends up being Tony Pollard. I think that's an excellent 3 really safe running backs to have on your roster at any given time. You have a little bit of upside with Kenneth Walker. You have upside in safety with Bucky Irving, especially since Rachaad White is banged up right now. Tony Pollard is trending in the right direction with no Tyjae Spears. Right now, his ADP still sits in the 6th round, but I would not be shocked if it gets into the 5th here before too long. For my 3 wide receiver spots, we're going Drake London, DK Metcalf, and Calvin Ridley. Now, Drake London offers you some safety. DK Metcalf offers you some safety, even though his upside is not that great. DK Metcalf was in my wide receiver must-have video, and a lot of people were like, I just don't see it. I get it, but Aaron Rodgers, if your main concern is him, he got tons of targets to Garrett Wilson last year, and that offense was a mess the entire season. I feel like he can still get a decent amount of targets to DK Metcalf, and if he's even just okay, I mean, that's wide receiver 2 numbers for the amount of volume he could end up having. Calvin Ridley and his upside, then I put him as my wide receiver 3. Evan Ingram, he's my tight end 1. He'll be starting every week. Now I have some flexibility. Obviously, Dak Prescott, he'll be in there. But for my last flex spot, I have some flexibility on what I want to do. If I want some more upside, I can go with Matthew Golden. If I want a little bit more of a safer floor, I could go with J.K. Dobbins to start the season. Now, keep in mind that J.K. Dobbins and Trey Benson may end up being guys that I use is some sort of trade bait later on. But let's go ahead and take a look at Team 1, because Team 1 is the team that drafted James Conner. And when you take a look at their draft, it's not the best. This is not a roster that gets me super excited from the 1 spot. But there is a key thing here that we want to keep in mind. They do not have a ton of running backs on their roster. So let's say you don't love what your roster looks like right now, especially when it comes to wide receivers. I could certainly hit up Team 1 and say, hey, you don't have a ton of running backs. Would you be interested in Trey Benson to back up James Conner? What if we could do something like Jerry Jeudy for Demario Douglas and Trey Benson? If they don't want to do that and you're not a huge fan of Matthew Golden, you could say, well, what about Matthew Golden and Trey Benson for Jerry Jeudy? And maybe that's a team that bites on that because they end up having Chase, JSN, and Devontae Adams who can start. More than likely, they probably end up dropping one of these running backs here, especially since they drafted Ramondre Stevenson. Maybe they try to trade him to the TreVeyon Henderson owner and make some other moves to secure another wide receiver. But that's one deal that you could make if you don't really love this roster and you want to get a little bit more value at the wide receiver position. But let's talk about the J.K. Dobbins pick for just a second, because when I look back on it, knowing what we know now, I probably could have done something different here. Now, for the running backs who were drafted after Dobbins, first guy up, Tyjae Spears. I could have backed up Tony Pollard, but I'm not really worried about Spears hurting Tony Pollard. Realistically, what I probably should have done is got Tank Bigsby, who ended up going at the beginning of the 11th round. He was a guy that I thought could end up making it back to me. I would have skipped Dak Prescott, and then I would have ended up going probably with either Jordan Love or Drake May after that. So that didn't end up working out. Or I could have went with Isaac Guerendo, another backup for Christian McCaffrey, maybe more likely to play, but may have been better trade bait as well to the Christian McCaffrey owner, who, by the way, also owns RJ Harvey. And we have J.K. Dobbins. So if you don't love J.K. Dobbins, then let's take a look at potentially what we could work out here. So let's put up Team 11 and see how our teams compare to each other. Now, one thing that we could definitely do instead of trying to get RJ Harvey is we could try to trade J.K. Dobbins instead. Or if you want to try and bring in RJ Harvey, that might be a little bit more difficult. I think what you would end up needing to do at that point, they have 3 running backs, McCaffrey, Cook, and Kamara, who are pretty solid. So one thing you might be able to do, if you don't believe in Calvin Ridley, if you don't believe in Matthew Golden, if you'd rather have, let's say, Emeka Egbuka, you could probably say, hey, I'll offer you Ridley, I'll offer you Golden, and I'll offer you Trey Benson for RJ Harvey and Emeka Egbuka. Does he accept that? He or she? More than likely not. I couldn't imagine that that would be quite enough to get the deal done, but at least it's a conversation starter. Or maybe if you wanted to trade J.K. Dobbins and you wanted a little bit better of a wide receiver, maybe you could do like J.K. Dobbins and Matthew Golden for Egbuka. If you feel like Egbuka would be safer than Golden and you need a little bit more safety, you could end up going that route as well. So when you take a look at the two teams next to each other, we talked about Team 1, we talked about Team 11, trying to find a trade partnership that works if you just don't feel like there's a couple of pieces on your team that fit the way that you want them to. But Headliner Nation, grade my team down below. Do not forget that if this video gets 1,500 likes, I'm going to pick somebody in the comment section who gives my team a grade along with just a little bit of analysis, 1 or 2 sentences about what they think about the team. They're going to get a free draft guide at 1,500 likes. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and stick around for all of the content that you're going to be getting all season long. Headliner Nation, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.